It's team time trial time, and just look at that course, look at those bends, twist and shout. They'll be twisting around the bends, shouting at each other over Discord, and negotiating what is one of the trickiest courses you're going to see in this Love OTR series, Love TTT series, run by OTR, I should say. You'll see 14 seconds before kick-off. That's in the bottom right-hand corner as we get behind the team. 6 riders, third rider's time counts. There's 7 on the line, as you can see. One of them is me, the bot, filming it, and off they go, and that's me left behind because I'm not actually in the race, and the 6 go off and immediately straight into that bend. These bends, remember this is on RGT, Wahoo RGT, those bends make you break, and Christian Linares already off the back, the man from San Antonio in Texas, struggling a little bit with that start. Now, before we cast too much judgment, it's Christian's first time in one of these races, and therefore is on a learning curve, shall we say. And whether or not that's going to be a steep learning curve, we'll leave Christian to tell you after the race. But for the moment, things belting away, 42 kph. This is quite decent. The target here is to get an average speed of around 40. Now, to explain, we're in week 4, and in week 4, the teams in each division are, well, not every team, but the teams at the top and the bottom get promoted and relegated. And what happens is that you can see Christian's back on now. So great catch up by Christian Linares, the man from Texas, USA. Now, as I say, the after week 4, you get promoted or relegated, and Team VR1 could get promoted with a good time tonight. They're going to need to do something like 28 minutes over this 18.6 kilometre course. Now, that would be doable if it weren't for all these bends, and if you've never ridden on RGT, you won't be aware that every time you go around one of those bends, it automatically brakes you to make it a bit more realistic. It's not like Zwift where you pedal around bends at 60 kph. This is much more realistic, and the draft is more realistic, so therefore staying without gaps. Now there's a little bit of a gap there between Alex Gold and Stuart Thorne, and another gap between Stuart Thorne and the next person of about 6 metres, which is not good. And you have to decide whether the guy on the front slows down to let everybody catch up, or everybody catches up. Now, the problem with catching up is you have to ride faster than the guy on the front, and you tire yourself out. So sometimes you make the decision just to slow down and let everybody get together. Other times you let everybody catch up. I can't tell you what they were discussing at that moment, but you can see Sticks here, which is Martin Brown from Plymouth in the West Country. He's actually from Stoke-on-Trent originally, but now lives in Plymouth down in the West Country. He's at the back with Christian again, and they both get back on, which is great going. Now, Martin and Christian have never ridden with VR1 before. They don't know the guys they're riding with. What happens with these competitions is that the team organisers have to get 6 riders together at a certain time, all to ride together, and getting 6 people with the same hour of free time is not as easy as you might think. And these are cross-border teams quite often. You can see here Christian Linares from the USA, as we've already discussed. Tobias Bjork is from Sweden, and the rest from the UK. Not all locals. Alex Gold, Ellen Lockett and Stu Thorne, they're all local people to West London. We know all those. And as I say, Martin from down in Plymouth. So it's not as if we all go out drinking and cycling together week in, week out. Some of us more than others, of course. But as I say, 2 debutantes in this team, which, given the importance of the ride, is a little bit of a difficult debut because there's pressure on to get this under 28 minutes if possible, and that is going to be tough. Now, as I say, look at the bends, they come thick and fast. If you look on the right of your screen, you'll see the triangle shaped thing that looks like a Christmas tree. That is the course, and the white line is the route they're following. So you can see it's bend after bend after bend, which is why we call it twist and shout. They are twisting around this course and shouting over Discord to decide who's going to go on the front. Now, one of the factors that makes this difficult is if you're on the front and you go around a bend and you are on the inside and it breaks, and somebody around the outside isn't braking as much, and that is automatic, you don't control it yourself, the person can overtake you, or vice versa. You might be going around the outside and somebody on the inside with the right power cuts inside of you. So either way, the guy on the front might not be on the front every second that they're meant to be, because the bends are disrupting the order. And we see Ellen Lockett just taking over in the front. We go round a bend. She manages to stay on the front, but did you see that Alex Gold went past the second place rider? And this is not deliberate shake-up of the positions, it's the effect of the braking and the bends disrupting the team. Now, interestingly, when VR2 were doing this the night before, we were seeing very long lines around these bends, and we're not seeing that tonight. And I did question whether or not it was something to do with the bends. I think it probably isn't, given the way that this more tightly compact group is behaving on those bends, but it does disrupt who's meant to be on the lead, and there's no clear-cut leader. As you see, you go around the bend and Stuart Thorne was in the lead, but Alex Gold on the inside goes past him. They get out again, Stuart Thorne goes out, pushes a little bit harder to make sure that he is in the lead on the next bend, but then creates a little bit of a gap, chased down by Alex Gold with Martin Brown, sticks to you, and Tobias York following. Now we've just got a little bit of a gap back to Christian Linares, the man making his debut in this from Austin, Texas. Sorry, not Austin, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, I should say. I beg your pardon. They aren't that far apart, at least in American mileage terms. Christian just fighting hard to stay on here, and as I say, it's his debut for both West London VR and certainly in Team 1, so quite a bit of demand and pressure put on the poor man in his first VR race. Now, I have to say, we didn't chuck him in lightly. We do know Christian. He actually was in the UK during the summer and came on a club ride with West London Cycling Club in the Chilterns in the sunshine, went out to Wendover Woods. So we do know Christian. He's as I say, known to us as a rider. He was a very strong rider that day, and therefore we've put him straight in Team VR1. Not least because we were also slightly short of riders, because the two Italians, Nicolo and Frankie, who would normally ride in this team to make up the six, both couldn't ride. In fact, had to do the VR2 race. And in fact, Nicolo didn't even make that because he became ill. So we only got Frankie Urbana, not Nicolo Martinelli. And as I say, this is it. You're juggling riders, trying to get six together for a team every time you need to race. So as I say, you don't get consistent. Alex Gold off the back. Now, why is that? Alex is dropping back to pick up Christian to drag him back. Christian now fighting to get on Alex's wheel to drag him back. The others, they're powering on, and Alex just sitting up. You can see the speed here, 37. This is way below Alex's normal speed. He's just waiting for Christian to get on the wheel. Christian's on the wheel. Alex immediately ramps up that speed. Now he's got Christian following him. Gets it up to 40. Gives Christian the impetus to go on. Christian takes a turn on the front. 44, 45 between the two of them, taking turns on the front. Christian's got his mojo back here, thanks to Alex, and that is what having a rider like Alex on your team means. He can drop back like that. He's strong enough to collect the sixth rider and bring him back to the team. So with just under 5.5 then. 5.5 kilometres gone, still with six riders. This is quite good. Now, the strategy isn't always to Christian just now back on, just fighting to stay on, but it is a little bit ragged there. There's too many gaps. They're hammering it out on the front. What's happening though here is that every corner is throwing out braking, and it's knocking them down to about 37 kph when they're targeting 40. So it's undermining their time. The corners are undermining their time, and I think the suspicion is if we can't maintain the target speed, because the corners just won't let you, by always taking you down to 30 and forcing you to accelerate back out again and make it up to 40 before you hit another bend and you drop down again. If you can't make that average, then this route is likely to be decided on the two big climbs. I say the two big climbs, having ridden this course, I can honestly tell you they're not really single climbs. It might look like it. Now, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you see the long green thread underneath the yellow writing. Now, where it goes red and blue, they are where the climbs are. Red is a steep upward climb, blue is a steep downward climb. Now, we've got 5 riders in here. Christian's off the back, and I think Christian's called it a day. 6 kilometres in, so about a third of the way, Christian calls it a day, and the other 5 go on. There's a point at which you don't slow down for the 6th person, and well done, Christian. That was a baptism of fire going into Team 1 for such an important race where it really does matter. The 44 speed, now this is good, 44.43. It puts them back on course to hit that 28-minute target. But as I was saying, will the hills be the decider here? Because if the bends are limiting what you can do, doesn't matter how powerful you are, the bends are going to slow you down. It's what you do over the hills that is going to determine whether you get a good time or not. So remember, the target is 28 minutes. That's what they need to kind of do. And at the moment, I mean, they're probably on course to 28 minutes, except for those 2 climbs. Now, the fact that those 2 climbs look very, very red tells you that they're very, very steep, but the dark blue tells you there's a downhill afterwards. So as long as you can make up on the downhill what you lost on the uphill, you might be okay, but that's unlikely. Now, as you can see, we're under the word the big blob there is where the riders we're following are. Now, they are about to hit a sort of little bit of yellow there, and it's going to go uphill, and you can see that the gradient is up to about 2.7% as they start climbing. Things slowing down 37 kph, but that's not too bad. I mean, the bends are taking you down to that anyway. Doing 30 up a 3% gradient is slowing them down, but everybody else has got to go up the gradient. The gradient's up to 3.4, 3.7, 4.1, 4.2% as it kind of maxes out at the top of that, but the speed right down to 28, so you're going to lose a bit there. Need to make that up by doing well over 40 on the way down. 47, 48, this is pretty good. Should even itself out a little bit, 50, just hitting 50 there. So hopefully not too much damage done by the climb with the great speeds down. But it's not a very long climb, so you don't lose a lot on the way up, but it's also not a very short climb, so you're not gaining a lot on the way down. And the bend's still having that effect of slowing you down on the downward path anyway. So it's a difficult course. It's very, very technical with all these bends as we look at the third, fourth and fifth riders at the back there. There's a little bit of gap, so this isn't this isn't as you look at it on the TV screen quite perfect team time trialing, because everybody's not quite on each other's wheel, but the pace being put down the front is probably a little bit of a cause of that, as we lose another rider off the back. Tobias just slipping off the back, and there's gaps throughout this now. Will Tobias get back on, or will 4 have to pursue the rest of the course on their own? Coming up to around 8 kilometres, 9.3 is the halfway stage. We'll get a feel for whether they're on course for 28 minutes or not. Out there, Tobias back on, fantastic riding, immediately pings past with the momentum and drags Stu, and I'm just trying to see who the other person was. Anyway, they're all back together. Ellen Lockett taking a turn on the front, could be her last ride for a little while. She's got to go and have an operation on her hand, and she's not sure when she'll ride next. She certainly can't ride probably over the next few weeks. So Ellen in her farewell ride, taking a strong turn on the front. Again, being limited by that 37 limit on the braking, and loses front place to Stuart. Not that they're racing each other, but it's just the way the dynamics work. And Alex finds himself on the front now, giving it a pull at 38, but immediately hits another tight bend. Managed to get around at 39.40, so that's pretty good. And we've got 5 riders together, which is still good. As we go up to 9 kilometres. You're going to see the halfway line coming up very, very soon. It's got a banner over the top. Look for the time as we go under that. We're at 13.40 at the moment. So if we're under 14 at halfway, we are on course for 28. But we've got those 2 big hills. The factor is how quickly you can get up the hills, coupled with if you go down them, here we are, this is the halfway stage, you see the purple banner, 13.59, so right on the 14, on course for 28, subject to whatever happens on the hills. So if they are slow up the hills, they've got to make it on the downhill afterwards, the dark blue sections, as you can see at the bottom. If you look under the word course, just before it says TTT and the wording at the bottom of your screen, that's where the first of the big hills are. Max is out about 9.3% this hill. It's a little bit of a drag upwards. You can see it goes on for a little while before it even hits that, and the second hill towards the end is actually a series of ups and downs before you get to the nasty red bit. So it's quite daunting. They're not very long, but they are not short, and at time trial sort of efforts can feel worse than if you're sort of out on a calm Sunday morning ride, just pedalling away and getting Saturday night's beer out of your system. So here we are on 9.96. We're sort of at the 10 kilometre mark, 15 minutes, so still okay time wise, subject to the performance on the hill. So this will be the telling point now as we twist around yet another bend, one after the other, just keeps just limiting that speed and not letting everybody sort of do that 40 target, which means that if you're 38 around the bends, you've got to do 42 or something like that on the straight bits, but of course you won't immediately fly up to 42. It takes a few meters bit. So you slow down here, goes right down to 37 again, but you can't get straight up to 42 as soon as you're around it. You've got to accelerate out of it. Takes a bit of effort. Second bend there, keeping them at 37. Now they're on a little bit of straight, they accelerate, and just as they get to 38, it drags them back down to 37 because it twists around another bend and then another one. Here we have a bit of straight acceleration. Can we get out to 40 before the next bend? It's not going to happen because we're at the next bend and it's already dragged us down to 37. So the bends are limiting the speed. Now this must be the same for every single team, which means if all the teams are sort of being forced to sort of drop down to 37 and can't average 40, if you're going to do the 28-minute target time, you're going to have to storm up those hills, and that is going to be the deciding factor. We're just about to hit that hill now. You can see the blob, it's under the letters O and U. You can see the gradient in the top right hand corner is going up. We're not really on the main bit of the climb yet. There is a little bit of a dip before we get there, but already 3.3% and the speed has dropped down to 28.29, and it depends what the other teams have done here as we get around another bend. It doesn't limit you too much because you're already going slow because of the gradient. The team just splitting up a little bit on this gradient as it hits 3.3%. This isn't the main climb yet, and it's already inhibiting the speed down at 32 kph, 4.2%, 5%, and they're not even on the main climb yet. There will be a little bit of a dip, 5% again, and this is eating into time there. 25 kph, 24 kph. This is beginning to hurt the legs. They've been fighting hard at fast speeds on the first half of the course. They don't really need this, and the bends not really sort of limiting the speed. As they ramp it up, they're going to hit better speeds as they hit the top, but 21, 5.5, 6.8%, down to 20 kph as they grind round another bend at 6%, and the gradient thankfully changes momentarily. A little bit of respite, but look what's coming. It's the red section already. After that little bit of respite, they're into 7.2%. This is higher than anything they've done so far in terms of gradient. 7.3%. Alex Gold leading the way. He gets a little bit ragged here as Stu Thorne takes up the running at the front. 7.2% still. This goes up higher. A little bit of respite as they get a short dip, and speed's ramped up to 45 straight away. This is pretty decent stuff. 7.8% now. 8%, and you can see the top of the ramp. Now what's it going to go up to? I think it's about 9.3%, but look at that speed, 16 kph. Stuart Thorne absolutely piling into this. 300 watts being put out to get up this 7.7%. Not quite at the top. 8.7, 9.2, 9.3 is the top percentage. 9.2 dropping down a little bit as they hit the horizon, but it's still 8.5%, 13 kph. This is really going to eat into their speed. They are not going to they're going to have to do something special to get rid of this time deficit they're accumulating on this hill as they get over the crest and downhill again. The crowd applaud. Stu Thorne leading the way. There's a little bit of gaps between Stuart and the rest of them, but that should be made up on the descent. You can see the other riders on the descent now. We have a little bit of Alex Gold taking the lead there. We have a little bit of closing of gaps to do though, don't we? 4 riders here now, and it's 5 actually. Everybody's back together. This is good. 5 riders over the first hill means there is a fighting chance of using everybody to get along the next flattish bit. Now I say flattish bit, there are a few little bumps along the way, so don't assume it's quite as flat as it might be. 42, 45 kph. They are going downhill though. This is the benefit of the downhill. I don't think that the 45 kph being only about sort of 5 kph above the target is going to compensate for going down to 21 kph on the ascent, but nevertheless 5 together is good, so this is quite encouraging. And 41 kph, I mean they need to maintain this on the way home. So we're over 20 minutes and we've still got nearly 6k to do, so it's looking like they're not going to hit the 28 minutes already. There's a time deficit here and a big hill to go. I think the odds are now beginning to go against them. They're going to have to do more than this. 45, that's better. 45 all the way home would be great. They might do it. That's not going to happen because of that hill. Just look at that hill coming. More red sections. This is not going to be in time, I don't think. That said, if you look at the second half of the course, they're going over to the left hand side of the triangle, as you can see on the map there, and there are straighter bits. It's not quite as bendy on the second half. You get the hills, but it's not quite as bendy. So 21 minutes with 5k to go. I don't think they're going to beat. It's going to be touch and go with it and get under 29 now. So it's getting very, very tight. It's going to have to be something special. They are doing 45 kph though, so don't write it all off yet. It's just the if you took that hill out of the equation, I think they could do it. But I think that hill is going to eat into. It's going to eat into the time, and 42 is not enough to make it up. They need to be on about 45 now. They're into tired legs. It's already hitting 39. They're on the flat doing 40. The legs are getting tired. It's a case of, do we split into 3 strong riders, which is going to be hard work for them. There's only 5k to go, or 4.5k to go, but that's still a long way for 3 riders on the front. It's probably best to keep the 5 now as they get ever closer to that final hill. Now there are a couple of lumps before that hill. They might drop a rider or 2 by then, but it's the third person's over the line's time that counts. And the so let's see what they can do. It's another tight bend, dropping them down to 38, and another bend straight after that. They need to get onto a straight section to make up any time here. This looks a little bit straighter as they have sort of sweeping bends here, which don't need as much time, but then it's finished off with a tight one again. Not any particular. You see the watts in the top left-hand corner go red momentarily when the braking kicks in and they're pedalling too heavily. Here it goes again. You see the red kicking in, going a tight bend, and they're pedalling harder than they need to because the brake is slowing them down. So it's what have we got? Just under 4k to go on 23 minutes. 4k in 5 minutes to do the target, but there's that big hill to come. That is going to be a tough order. They'd have to be going well over 40, 45 plus to have a chance for that on the flat. It's not going to happen. They're at 36. The bends are kicking in. It's a disappointing ride. I mean, they've worked so hard. They were on course in the first half, subject to the hills, and the hills are just taking their toll. And I think the teams that win this will be the ones who do the fastest time over the hills. If we'll see when all of this unravels and we see what all the other teams have done. But I think the hills are going to be where this is won and lost, and probably in this case lost, as we count down We've still got 3 1/3 kilometres to go, and we've only got 4 minutes to do it in. I think the hill is, it's even with the best will in the world, if 3 riders went off very, very fast, just looking at that red steep gradient that they've got to encounter on that hill, and the fact that the bends are going to sort of sweep. Look at 45 kph, the group's in 2. Actually, they got around that one quite fast, but no, it's down to 35 kph because of the bends, inhibited again, split into 2. The 2 up front are achieving nothing because it's the 3rd rider's time that counts. They need to regroup. The guys on the front need to slow down. There's no point in them going fast because they need a 3rd rider because it's the 3rd rider's time that counts. Slowly getting it back together, the team's beginning to become one again. There they are, they've joined there, but of course the chase would have cost them a little bit. Hopefully the guys on the front have had a little bit of a rest, letting them catch up. But look at the speed now, 34, 35. This is getting ever harder to achieve that 28 minute target, and as I say, it's getting a little bit forlorn now, disappointing, but everybody gritting their teeth and grafting to get away. Tobias and Stu just a little bit off the back there. I think they'll pull it back together. It's all about what happens on the last climb. How many riders will there be? Do they leave people behind? I think my guess is with about 1 1/3 kilometres to go at the top of that climb, there's no merit in waiting for the 4th rider. You just go for it. This is Ragged now. They've got a little bit of a stretch, but there's no point. There's no point slowing down. They're on a hill and they're being forced to slow down, and this is why it's splitting up like that. You can't do much about this. Everybody's got to go up the hills at their own pace. But look at the speeds now, under 20 kph, and this is where I think the strongest teams will probably make up the time. 5%, and we're not even at the red hill yet. We're at the little bump beforehand, downhill again, but immediately into one of those tight bends, limiting the speed. They were on 40, suddenly they're on 34 as they go around the bends. They've got to accelerate again when they come out the bends, back up to 40. The bends are knocking the time. The group is split up at the moment. It needs to get itself back together again. At least 3 riders off the front need to. Ellen Lockett going off on the front. The others will catch her. I think she'll let them catch up, but we're probably down to 4 riders, maybe 3 I guess, because the last 2 there, Martin Brown and Tobias Bjork, a little bit off the back. Will they get it back together again as we go over the big hill? It's not that important now to be in a 5. We've only got 1.7 kilometres back. If there's 3 at the top and there's a big gap to the 4th rider, they should just go and finish this race off in the best time they can. 27 minutes is just coming up. A minute to do 1.7k is not going to happen because obviously that would require a speed of well over 60 kph. So I think we can conclude the 28 target is not going to be met. They're now on the downhill. There is a little bit of a short ramp just before, or just after this, as we'll see in a moment. And beyond that, then it is the race for the line. Now we've got 4 riders, 5 riders together, which is great, but whether or not it can be that cohesive, coherent, and together in the running remains to be seen. 27:40, so we're not going to hit the target. Still over a kilometre to go. The riders not quite together again. I mean, okay, you know, the bends are slowing them down. It's making it difficult. We've got a little bit of a gradient there. That's the bump, that's the kick that I mentioned, and now it's the race for the line. 5 riders is great, but it needs to be at full power. Speed's going up to 46, that's good, but the 28 has already been missed. 28.09 with 800 metres to go. It's going to be well over 28.5, probably 29ish, I'm guessing. So 29 is the prediction at the moment. It doesn't matter that there's a split now. The 3 at the front have just got to go. They've got to make sure they get the third rider over as quick as they possibly can. 28.30 now, 30 seconds to 600 metres. Probably a bit of a tall order. It's going to be over 29, I think. 28.40 just being clocked up there with about 500 metres to go. It's going to be, I'm guessing, about 29.10, something like that, as they go. There is a sharp bend before the end as well, so they'll get slowed down. There's no big sprint for the finish. They will get inhibited by some bends, and here we have more bends. There is a straight section coming up. Here it is, and they're on 29.02, so it's over 29 already with 200 metres to go. I think my 29.10 was probably a bit of a brave prediction because they haven't reached the bend before the finish yet. 29.11, 29.12. You can see the bend, you can see the barriers starting then. This is the finishing straight, so it's about how quickly we get over that, and it's going to be about 29.18, I think, for the third rider over. So 29.18, 1 minute 18 over the target, but a fantastically brave ride. Well done, Martin Brown, for sticking there right to the end. Well done, Christian Henara's baptism of fire in the very first race. Christian just finishing off the race from San Antonio, and riding in a different time zone, of course, to everybody else on here. Everybody else from Europe, and in San Antonio, the middle of the day. So well done, Christian, for taking out time to race with us today. So a slightly disappointing result, but nevertheless, I think you'll all agree, a fantastic result in terms of the time taken. A great performance by the team, even if it fell a little bit short of the target. It's probably going to be beaten by some of the stronger teams out there, but nevertheless, we salute the riders this evening from West London Team VR1. Well done, everybody, and we'll be back next week for more fun on the TTTs. Bye for now.